Yossi Cohen, it is great to be chatting with you.
Thank you very much for having me, Moshe.
Congrats on the book. There's so much to be talking about, the recent operations against Hezbollah, Iran. But before we get into the book, I want to start big picture, Yossi. Nearly 2 years out now, the Middle East, the world, Israel, everything a very different place than it was 2 years ago. So I want you to sort of lay things out from your perspective. For Israel, the Palestinians, the larger Middle East, where things stand as we talk today.
Well, that's the biggest question, that I've ever asked, on this kind of podcast. But, because there are so many details inside it that I can refer to. But I will try to start by saying the following. When the Khomeini got back from his deported place, like in Paris and so, and the Iran revolution has started, the Islamic radicalist revolution started. The state of Israel was facing kind of a new challenge in the region, and bit by bit, and then was accelerated dramatically. Iran just pushed back. From Iran, cutting through Iraq into Syria, into Lebanon, then down to Gaza through its help. And this thing is happening for the last, let's say, 20, 25 years at least, or maybe.
Yeah, this is what they call the Shiite crescent.
Exactly that. The Shiite crescent, is a fact that I discuss a lot. Not a fact, but it's a vision that I discuss a lot, because Iran do believe that this is what they have to have. And that's why you see their huge impact on as I said, on the Shiite crescent, on the northern part of the Middle East. But they go down to Hamas, and they go the other way around to the Houthis that are partially Shiite as well. Hamas is not, but the hatred to the state of Israel is the common knowledge or the common interest that they have with the Iranians. That war that started on October 7th eventually changed or flipped back, the entire thing to the direction of Iran. And if you see the sequence of the stories of our war currently, this is what we've done. We haven't initiated that. We didn't do anything, to start or to initiate a global war in the region. But what has happened is, when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, we had a very intense and strong battlefield, with Hamas in Gaza Strip, first in Israel, and then we cleared the Israeli territories with the intruders that have entered the state of Israel from Gaza to our direction. Then we cleaned, or we're still cleaning as today, Gaza Strip from terrorists. Then we were holding it for about a few months, and a kind of I would say, a flip or kind of a movement, towards the northern part of the Middle East started when we moved from Hamas into Lebanon, Hezbollah. Then we had a kind of a counter-revolution inside, whatever you call it, inside Syria. We had to destroy the Syrian army and take part of the Syrian Golan Heights on the Hamon, in our hands, to make sure that Syrians will not come our direction anymore. And then we moved them, and we jumped over Iraq, but then we moved directly into Iran. So Iran did that during many times, along many years, and we pushed it back, the other direction, completely. So in the end of that war, Moshe, to your question, I think that the state of Israel's situation or security situation is going to be so much better.
You really showcased quite the dominance, being able to effectively fly, control the air, everything between Tel Aviv and Tehran, down to Yemen and across the region. Historically speaking, has Israel ever had as much military power or dominance over the region than it has currently?
Not like that.
I ask that because, it's ironic, and I'm curious as to your perspective, that given the dominance Israel has militarily, there was concern, and I remember Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary for under Biden, was saying this in the days after October 7th, that Israel, you might achieve a tactical victory, but you might achieve at the same time suffer a strategic loss, given what's been happening to Israel reputationally, what's happening globally right now. So I'm curious how you think about that, as somebody who is worried, who has spent his entire career worried about the defense of Israel. How you couple those, the military dominance, but also what's been happening internationally.
I think that internationally we are paying a higher price than we have expected, or probably we shouldn't be surprised. On the other hand, I mean, we don't really have an option. I mean, there are filthy enemies, I mean, standing on our borders and declaring openly the annihilation of the state of Israel. And not only that, they've tried to do that. Not that they can, of course. I mean, you correctly said, and this is because of huge help from America. I mean, the Israeli military and the Israeli army eventually is the most sophisticated one in the region, and for a good reason. I mean, everybody was trying to destroy the state of Israel for so long. So yes, we do carry, I would say, a huge burden of defense from the days of the creation of the State of Israel. But when we start to defend ourselves practically, and when we say that we will not accept terrorism in our territory, we will not accept Hamas nor Hezbollah on our territory, and you know what, more than that, and we will not accept any Iranian uh, nuclear capabilities that will threaten the State of Israel on the highest level of threat, i.e., existential threat. So the world is punishing us for doing all that. And the world, like always, has been very cynical. Super cynical about the state of Israel. They know that we're doing it not only for us, they know that we're doing it for them too. But I think that, in this kind of diplomacy or the open diplomacy that the world's running, most of what you see and most of what we translate could be differently set if the state of Israel would have gathered forces to counter that, officially or not officially. I mean, the problem is that with our PR, the hasbara, as we say in Hebrew, does not exist. I mean, the only one to explain what we do is the prime minister, and he does a terrible job. And he's doing a terrible job on explaining who we are and what we do. And there is a good reasons, I mean, for the things that we're doing. And who is doing it out there? Who is like, I mean, in behalf of the state of Israel, the government of the army is explaining what we do and why is it so important. So we have less and less and less support from the world, which is not the right thing to do for them. But this would not be changed if you don't really have a kind of a very efficient system, at least speaking to the leaders around the world, telling them, come on, guys, this is the situation, this is what we have to do. So yes, in one hand, we're doing the right thing. I'm sure about that. I mean, we don't really have a choice. I mean, I don't think that there is any other country on earth that would accept this kind of threats on its border. On the other hand, when you do that, yeah, you may pay prices, and the state of Israel is paying the prices. I do not agree with the prime minister's declaration that we're going to go Sparta style. But I think that
Right,
he
he
has
made that
correct.
statement recently.
I know, yeah, I know. But he corrected that. And what he meant is that the state of Israel will keep its um, independent capability on producing, I'm sorry, armaments and weapons. I mean, this is what he meant to say. Because of this isolation, because of this, I would say the unfair, if I may be saying, if I may say that, unfair reaction by the world to the just war that we have conducting for the last almost 2 years now.
So, from your perspective, it was a communication failure and not a conduct of war failure. Or if you look at these past 2 years, Yossi, are there things, I mean, even as we watch this Gaza City operation happening right now, that the Israeli government could have done to ensure that where, as we speak here, countries that have been very close to Israel for decades, the Western European countries, the French, the UK, the Germans, etc., Canadians, all, now looking at recognizing a Palestine, very critical of Israel. As the former director of the Mossad, you dealt with these world leaders and top agencies. Has that reaction surprised you? And at the same time, as you just laid out, is it solely a communication failure, or did Israel, when you look back at it, like, okay, there are things we have done in this war that we probably should not have done?
No, I don't think that we went wrong with that war. I mean, we don't really have an option. I mean, when you fight in these kind of territories, and I did myself, I mean, early times, you have to we have to realize that there is a kind of a very tough combination for a normal army to defeat the enemy, because the enemy is combined in with normal civilians, or with other citizens that are not involved in the war. They do that in Lebanon, Hezbollah. They're doing it the same practice in Hamas. They do not stand like in camps that they can go and destroy them in the Sahara Desert or in the Sinai Peninsula that we've done like in with Egypt at the time. I mean, it is a combination of hospitals, clinics, schools, UN entities that are hosting terrorists. So, and that makes the war, unfortunately, so much complicated. And this is the actual war that the world's facing. I think that the USA had the same troubles in Afghanistan and eventually in Iraq. I mean, but the war laws has been all the time updated. I mean, to the point that they say, okay, since so many citizens, unfortunately, I have to admit, are getting killed or getting killed because of the proximity to the terrorists that or the terror organization that are inhabited in their territories, we get even higher criticism. So maybe it is because of the type of the war that we're fighting inside, like a civic territory. Maybe it is because the world was always like this and a little bit cynical against the state of Israel. I mean, whatever it was. But yes, we do see different reaction right now, which is worrying. I mean, you did mention Australia,
Hmm.
which is like brutally attack the state of Israel. I mean, right now, and this is something that haven't faced that before. And we've helped all countries that you've mentioned, and more than that, we've helped the Turks and the Brits and the Germans and the French and the Italians and the Chinese and the Australians to counter terrorism. I've done that
Right. You
personally.
you you write in the book, you talk about discovering things and calling your colleagues in those countries about imminent attacks.
Not only that, I mean, we had pursued, I mean, the terrorists on their territories together with them. I mean, we've done that. I mean, we have counterterrorism, I mean, to stop all the violent activity inside their territories with their permission. And yes, we saved hundreds of, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives by arresting this kind of terror units inside Europe, inside Australia, inside the USA, or inside Turkey. In Turkey alone, I mean, we've disrupted, I mean, my time, close to 40 different terror attacks on Turkish soil. This is not being appreciated enough to my sorrow.
Is one of the challenges being in your profession, Yossi, that as you lay this out, like most of the things you probably just mentioned, never been publicized. You can't publicize them. Is that, part of the challenge here is that you can't talk about the wins in intelligence? Sometimes you're only dealing publicly with the losses.
Yeah, yeah, probably yes. I mean, the only thing that, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is absolutely the equation that we're aware of. And when everything is okay, nothing is getting published. But when something one thing goes wrong, I mean, God forbid, Chas v'Chalila, the Mossad, so all the world is dealing with it. Like, Khaled Mashal in Amman at the time, or Mabhouh in Dubai, and stuff like that. But yes, I mean, we're doing
Yeah,
very
just for our audience, you're laying out a couple of the cases where the Mossad failed in its mission in a couple assassination missions.
correct.
Yeah.
And the good stuff that we do on daily basis is not being recognized by neither Israelis nor the world, and we don't really care about that as long as we know that we're doing the right stuff. But my counterparts in the countries that you've mentioned, England, UK, France, Italy, Germany, Australia, Austria, all European countries. I mean, all of them,
I mean,
Turkey,
even
all
Spain
of them.
lately has been very,
I mean,
extremely
Spain. I
critical.
mean, we've been working tightly with this kind of my counterparts all over the world. I mean, trying to defeat terrorism not only for the sake of the state of Israel or the Jewish diaspora, but for the sake of Spanish, Brits, Turkish, and I repeat myself. Okay, so this has to be appreciated. At the same time, I don't accept it, but I can understand it because the foolishness of massaging their own audience with tough messages against the state of Israel is believed to help them keeping their streets quiet, which is not going to help for long. And this is what I see. Because if you ask yourself, why do they believe that a declaration of a future Palestinian state will create a state? I mean, you and I, we can now declare that we believe that whatever, I mean, we can create a state for any other minority around the world. Do you think that they will have a state the next day? No. What is it then? What is it? I mean, they have a lot of reasoning, I mean, behind all that. I mean, saying, oh, because of what Israel is doing in the West Bank or the Judean Samaria territory, and then because of what Israel is conducting in Gaza Strip, now we have a kind of a punishment to the state of Israel. We will recognize the creation of a Palestinian state. We've done that too. Oslo Agreement says that Oslo 1, Oslo 2, right? That we are going forward a Palestinian state. I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he is promoting. I mean, I'm not sure that he's doing it right now, but he did that in the past.
Hmm.
When I was his national security advisor, we've been traveling to Washington, D.C. under Obama's administration. And next to me, live on camera, Benjamin Netanyahu said openly, we are in favor of the two-state solution. So, what kind of declaration is going to make the difference right now? It doesn't. The only thing is that Israel is like to be punished by this declaration. And more than that, I think that they believe, like Canadians believe, French believe, that they will keep their audience locally quiet. So they will have less demonstration, less terror coming in their direction, less Iranian conducting terrorism on their soils, less Muslim radicalists' reaction on their land. I mean, this is what I believe, that they're communicating that so to show their own local audience, we're okay, guys, with you, right? I mean, please be quiet. I mean, we are in favor of the creation of the state of the Palestinian state.
So you think that this is all just rhetoric from them, and these leaders who you have dealt with in your various positions over time don't genuinely believe what they're saying?
I think that the generally they may believe that this is the right thing to do. I don't think that there is the intellectual depth needed with part of the leaders that I know around the world that do understand what does it take to create a Palestinian state when you don't really have Palestinian unification or consolidation of one active, vivid, important, capable leadership on their side, and more often, I mean, they do not agree on anything. I refer to what Hamas, what the opinion of Hamas about a Palestinian future state or a two-state solution. So Ramallah claims two-state solution, right? As some of the Israelis want, and or some of the Canadians, Americans, yeah, French or Spanish, as you said, want.
Right. This
But
has been the vision for 30 plus years, right? That somehow we can
yeah,
that
but
there can be an
Hamas,
agreement between Israel and the
correct,
Palestinians and create two states there.
correct, Moshe, but Hamas counters that dramatically. I mean, Khaled Mashal
Yeah.
just published another video saying, two-state solution? No way. One-state solution, Palestine from the river to the sea. This is the Hamas ideology. So even in within the Palestinian well, whatever, I mean, capacities, or even within the Palestinians themselves, they can't really agree on something that will show any goodwill of creating any Palestinian state next to a Jewish state. And that's why, I mean, any declaration, I mean, you can declare whatever you want, not you, of course, I mean, the UN, or
Hmm.
you can declare that it is a genocide. It is not. You can declare that we're starving people. We do not. You can declare that we're doing the filthiest thing on that war. We do not. We are fighting terrorism, not only for the sake of the state of Israel, but for the sake of the world's counterterrorism action. And this will not create a Palestinian state whatsoever.
So when people, like they're given the accusations of genocide, the accusation of war crimes, and it's not coming from the usual suspects of the nonprofits and NGOs. I covered Washington for a long time, Yossi. There are members of Congress who, have voted with Israel in the past who are throwing out this sort of language out there. So I'm just curious from your perspective, again, especially what unfolded in the spring and summer related to some of the food shortages that even the Israeli government recognized. The conduct of the war, especially in the last few months here, I'm curious as to any critique you have, and also how much longer you see this going, especially as we talk now, the Gaza City operation is underway.
Well, I think that there is the absolute solution would be if all hostages will be released today. And I think that this will end the war immediately. I think that what we are doing currently is that we are holding a position of no choice. In one hand, Hamas still there. In fact, the world is talking to Hamas in order to conduct a kind of I would say, active negotiations, I mean, to release the hostages. And this is, of course, the main goal. So Marco Rubio was in Qatar. I know that this is the country that nobody likes anymore, but he was there because they are the mitigators for a future hostages deal.
But actually,
I know that
why are you talking about Qatar there? Do you think it was a mistake to conduct the operation against the Hamas leaders in Qatar?
absolutely.
That was a mistake.
Yes.
How badly do you think that ruins the chances of negotiation and the relationship with the Qataris?
Well, I know that well, I read the news like everybody else does, but and I don't see that on that sense Qatar is going to withdraw from being the mitigators for this kind of hostages deal. At the same time, there is a good message about that as well. I mean, I think that Hamas and other terrorists around the world should know again that the state of Israel will not accept them being anywhere hiding from us, conducting these atrocities, and be safe somewhere or anywhere. And this is a good message. The negative part of it is that I don't think that was should have been the method of doing it because it is very hard for the Qataris, for any nation, I mean, to digest these kind of operations. Okay, so if it is a clandestine operation, under the radar, yes, there will be kind of an anger. But if it is like open missile attack, it is so much harder to do. But the good stuff about it is not only that the terrorists do not feel immune anywhere around the world, is that we eventually holding together with the Americans, the Qataris inside the game of negotiations, since Qatar itself needs a kind of an achievement. For them too, they have nothing. I mean, to declare the open right now and to say, okay, look at us. I mean, we're the Qataris, we're so good. Okay, the world has turned against Qatar currently, and I'm not sure the criticism always is right, but it has to be judged again after the war will be over and after the entire hostages will be home in Israel. Um, so I think that this will continue. I mean, as long as the hostages are not released, and I think that the state of Israel, together with the United States of America, are holding very tight connections with the Qataris to make sure that this will happen, because this is the only red line that if this one would be crossed and hostages will be released, it will end the war.
I'm curious, even at the expense of the reputational damage, the relationship damage that Israel is already experiencing internationally and could likely, keep escalating here in the coming months.
What do you mean?
Meaning, do you support, continuing the war for however long, even with the amount of relationship damage that's being done with, some longtime allies, as we discussed? Is
I think
is it
that this,
worth
I got
is
it.
it worth the
Okay.
costs?
Okay. I mean, we're not going to stop the war because of world criticism. I mean, we have to conduct the war because of the needs of conducting the war. So it is again, it's kind of a thing that has to be balanced in between what we have to do and what the world thinks about what we're doing. And we can't stop doing what we're doing only because the world thinks it is wrong. Because I mean, the state of Israel, I mean, announced many opinions about other countries' wars. Are they just or not just? I mean, do you do it rightly or are you doing wrongly? I mean, do you keep your human rights and rules of engagement and the international law of wars or not? I mean, we don't do that. When there is a need, let's say in a war in Afghanistan or a war in Iraq or a war against ISIS at the time, a coalition of 74 countries fought ISIS. Is this just? Yes. Was that conducted? I mean, in a form of an understanding and a huge coalition together? Yes. The state of Israel fought the same size of terror organization like Hamas alone. Yes, with a huge backing from the USA, and I truly thankful. I mean, for the Americans. I mean, to support the state of Israel so beautifully, so dramatically at the time we needed that. But at the same time, if there is a world's opinion about we do it right or we don't do it right, this could not or should not stop the war. The only thing that should stop the war is are the deepest question on our side. Are we doing the right stuff to defeat Hamas? Are we doing it rightly? I mean, to make sure that hostages will be released. Are we doing it rightly according to the international law? And if the answers are good on our side, we should do what is all right for the state of Israel to do. Listening to the others is important. As we say, Am levadad ishkon. Okay, and we have to figure out what is right for the defense of the state of Israel. And we've been criticized all over. I mean, for first day of the state's creation in 1947, only Kaftet November 29th of November 1947, I mean, the state of Israel, before being even a state, has started to be crucified orally and verbally by some of the nations, and then practically by the Arabs around us. So they're trying to destroy the state of Israel since. And 1973 was the tipping point, and the state of Israel was then under an existential threat. Not anymore today, thank God.
Um,
So I think that we have to listen to what the world has to say, but it should not enter our decision-taking system if the war is just or not.
and one question I got from friends in the Jewish community related to this, I'm curious to how you thought about this as the head of the Mossad. How much would you consider, and do you think they're actually actively considering right now, when you take actions as Israel for the national security of Israelis to keep Israelis safe? How much of the calculus are you considering in terms of global Jews around the world, the impact there around the Jews? And I ask that because, yeah, as you're familiar, as you've been in the U.S., the rise of anti-Semitism globally. How do Israeli defense leaders think about the defense of Israel, but then also work in Jews around the world?
We do care about that. I mean, this is part of I would say the details that we're looking at. If there is even a kind of an active relationship with the Jewish communities, and there is that we can consult with on action that we do, which is not all the time military or clandestine operations or disrupting terror groups. I mean, we do consult. I did with people that do know. Do know. I mean, the diaspora do understand Jewish communities and will explain to me what and if there is a kind of a positive or negative impact. For sure, what we do in terms of Mossad is that we are in touch with the Jewish communities around the world to support them to counterterrorism. This is what we do. If there is a local war in Israel, it may be affecting Jewish people all over the world, but I believe that it may affect positively Jewish people all over the world because we clean most of the terror activity around the world today alone. No one's doing it. I mean, if you would ask yourself who counters terrorism around the world, I mean, not many countries do. Definitely not physically. I mean, we are sharing a lot of intel, a lot of intelligence with my counterparts, as I shared in the past. I'm sure that the current head of Mossad is doing exactly the same to counter terrorism for the sake of their people and for the sake of the Jewish communities all over the world. I mean, the Jewish people are not aware of that, of course, but I think that the calculus of is it going to affect like an attack in Iran? Is it going to affect the Jewish community in Brussels? I'm not sure that this is part of the discussions, but globally we are very much interested in keeping safe Jewish communities all over the world.
You talk extensively, write extensively about the operations in Iran going back decades that you were involved in. As you watched what unfolded in June there in the 12-day war, uh, were you surprised by what Israel was able to accomplish there based on all the years of work you did there? I'm curious as you watched what happened, what was going through your mind?
Satisfaction, enthusiasm. Yeah, I liked very much what I saw, of course. I mean, I mean, to conduct this kind of operation in a given day, let's say June 13, 2025, you don't start in June 12. In order to gather so much accurate intelligence, so to send your aircrafts and precision guided missiles onto the right targets in Tehran, in other cities, needs many, many, many years of work. And this is what we did. And I'm not surprised. I'm happy with what has happened. And I think that this kind of an attack shows that Israel is determined to get rid of any existential potential threats. And that the state of Israel, I mean, yeah, I mean, not proportionally to its size, is capable of doing many, many, many things in the Middle East to change the course of evilness against the state of Israel to make it in our favor. So I'm very happy. I'm very proud of what we did. I mean, the last 25 years in Iran itself. We had been there on daily basis. I mean, all the time, all the time. I mean, my subordinates, I mean, operatives, I mean, from the Mossad have been traveling to Iran again and again and again and again. I mean, for a reason. I mean, we had been very much worried about their planning or their filthy planning for the state of Israel, and we couldn't stand by and looking at that without doing anything. So, a lot we did along the time. For the last 25 years, we have disrupted and delayed much of Iran's capabilities on the nukes. We have done, I would say, kind of a strategic job when we brought in the archive that was not disrupting anything but beside the political aspects of it. Like the world now sees that Iran has lied all the way to the JCPOA, to the nuclear agreement, and we had to invest a lot in order to gather this kind of intelligence and to make sure that Iran will never get to the bomb.
Yeah,
Um,
just to back up here for the audience, what you're describing is this was a major operation while you were running Mossad to steal the Iranian nuclear archive
Correct,
and effectively try to prove to the world what Iran had gathered and what Iran was lying about at the time.
correct, absolutely that, and you see the outcome, and when going into that important day in June 2025. When we got the green light, I believe, from the Israeli government together with the American administration, it was based on a kind of a very important decision that was taken a few days prior to that attack at the IEA in Vienna, based on the archive. They say Iran didn't come clean with its violations, and they do not explain us what what are the facts that we had found in the archive. And more than that, they violate all the controllers that are being sent over to its nuclear sites, and they do not let them see or let them visit or let them read and write what's inside Iran actually. And that was the light green light, and then the huge green light came afterwards. Exactly, I mean by few days. And this is a kind of a scenario that I was like wishing to see for many years.
I'm curious, just having dealt with Iran operations for decades here, how much damage you think was done to Iran, and whether you think there's a scenario where the regime there, the Ayatollah, says we have to give up on the nuclear dream, or this will only continue.
Well, I think that the stupidity of the Iranian regime, I mean, to claim that they can have a nuclear bomb is beyond explanation. And look at what has happened to Iran since. Iran potentially could be a very wealthy country. I mean, the oil and gas reserves that they have, one of the huge world's reservoirs. I
They
mean,
said they said the largest. It's their
I
second
think the
largest.
largest on earth. I mean, the South Parth they call it, or I mean, the Qataris call it the other way around. But nevertheless, it's a reservoir that is huge. I mean, the largest on earth, and then it's not being deployed yet. So I can't explain, but when when nationalism is attached to a kind of a radicalism, I mean, it is beyond explanation. So Iran suffers because of its regime dramatically, but that's their religion, and this is the radicalism that Iran runs. Then I cannot change that. No one can. You can't tell them, "Oh, you believe in something wrong," because that their deepest beliefs, unfortunately for them, unfortunately for their citizens, and unfortunately for the world and for us. On the other hand, I think that the damage that we have caused and in the last attack is huge. First, I mean, we did not attack only the two sites that we've been working upon. It's not only Fordo and Natanz, the two bunkers that practically were severely damaged. But we have attacked other sites that were discovered at the nuclear archive. Things that Iran was trying to hide, and we're not sure what's in it. We took them away as well. I mean, to make sure that Iran does not stay on our side with question marks. and the IEA will have nothing to control because there's nothing there anymore. And more than that, Moshe, I mean, the most important part of this attack is that Iran felt immune because of this international relationship. When one of the American presidents blessed Iran after the JCPOA, telling them, "We welcome Iran back to the family of nations." I mean, you can find this quote at the White House declarations. I do not welcome Iran back to the family of nations. This is not my family. My family is America. My family are Western countries that are friends with us. My family is Abraham Accords family. This is the family. I mean, countries that are on the side, on the right side of the world, and Iran is not. Nevertheless, I think that we have corrected that dramatically in June 2025, and the attack reversed the deep feeling that Iran is immune from any military attack. And more than that, Iran do understand today, since we did it and we took the air defense systems easily, and we had operated simultaneously, Mossad and the IDF, inside their streets and villages and houses. And America supported that, backed that to the point that America joined this attack with your beautiful B-2s. Iran knows today, and they do understand something very important. We can come again.
Is Iran weaker now than it's ever been since the regime took over 40 plus years ago?
Absolutely, and that's what I offered to the American regime, American administration. I'm sorry to continue the war and to topple down the regime, because on June 22nd, just after the B2 attack, Iran was in its weakest point ever, and I think that we needed to push just a little bit more, maybe another week or two of attack on the Iranian regime to take them down and their facilities down and their, I would say, governance capabilities down, so to make the people of Iran go out at the streets and maybe topple down the Iranian
Though,
regime. But
though Yossi, we have a difficult history in America with regime change around the world. It hasn't quite worked out over the
I
last few
know,
decades.
I know, yeah, Qantas and the others. I mean, I do remember that the Contras. I'm sorry, and so
You got
more. I
that
mean,
Saddam.
yeah, I
I mean,
know. I mean,
even Obama's called for for Mubarak to go. I mean, even if you look closer in the neighborhood there,
yeah, I
uh,
know,
and
I
and
know.
and certainly there's reluctance from Trump. But I want to talk about Trump for a second because you write about how you dealt with the senior leaders, over multiple administrations, Obama, Trump, and Biden. And you write about how Trump is viewed in the region, and I'd like you to lay that out, Yossi. How do leaders across the Arab world and the Middle East look at Donald Trump? What is it that in the way that he conducts himself, that he gets about the region, from your perspective, especially having worked very closely on the Abraham Accords?
Right, and I think that the current administration do understand the Middle East differently, and for and at the right version of it. I mean, from my perspective, I mean that Middle East is a tough place, and the only way to understand who you are, majorly to be the Iranians or to other terror organizations, to show power. And when America is not there, when America is absent from the region, I mean, the region is getting stronger to the wrong direction. And when America is present, like they are today, you see the differences. And I truly believe that the Trump administration is doing absolutely the right stuff. You attack the evils and you endorse and hug the good guys. And there are good guys in the Middle East. Like I expect, like as a normalization agreement with the Saudis will happen. I think that this is something that Saudis want. I believe that America wants. I believe that the state of Israel want, of course. So everybody's going on that direction, and the translation on Trump's administration for this, in one hand fighting the enemy, on the other hand endorsing the good parts of the Middle East is the right thing to do.
Yeah, you write about that. You still have faith in the book. You write that Saudi Arabia will emerge as Israel's most influential partner in the Middle East. Officially today, there's no relationship. Officially, they're asking for a path to a Palestinian state. How far away do you think that is in the reality that you're in right now in Gaza?
I think that we can write a kind of a sequence that would be realistic. I mean, first, I mean, we have to end the war. I don't think that an agreement with the Saudis will be ever signed when there is an active
Wait,
war.
when do you
When
think? Can you make a prediction, Yossi? When do you think the war is going to end? Do you think it ends this year? Do you think it goes into next year?
I think it will be over by the end of that year. Yes,
The end of this year?
the war. Yeah,
Really?
or
So
the
in
agree.
the next 3.5 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so then lay out for me the sequence when there's a ceremony
So
at the White House
the
lawn
sequence. I
between
mean, to my understanding, it would
MBS
be. I mean,
and what is it? Is Netanyahu prime minister? Can it happen while he's prime minister?
what the agreement with the
In agreement with the
Saudis?
Saudis? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Why not? It's not about
Okay.
him. It's about America.
Well, you do
Well, I
write in
mean,
the book
first,
that he doesn't have the best reputation in the region, and there are
true.
certain leaders that don't want to deal with him anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, there's the truth. He knows that. I mean, I know it. Everybody knows it. I mean, it's like a common thing that it doesn't run very effective and good relationship with the region. I mean, I don't know why, but that's a fact. Okay, but it's not about him. It's about international relations that the USA conducts smartly in the region right now, and I will refer to that in the second phase of the sequence. So first thing that has to happen, to my understanding, at the end of the war. Second thing that has to happen is the normalization between the USA and Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia are telling you in America, okay, we need some guarantees, we need some insurances that if worse comes to worse, I mean, you will come to help us because we're going to pay price whilst signing an agreement with the state of Israel.
So a defense deal
And
between an enhanced defense deal between
exactly.
the U.S. and Saudi.
And there are some hurdles in it that has to be crossed or jumped above. Like, I mean, do you agree or not that Saudi Arabia could have nuclear capabilities? I mean, on their side, I mean, they would say, like Iran claims, it's going to be only civic, of course, but and more hurdles to go. Mainly the defense pack. Okay, that has to be eventually agreed between Saudi Arabia and the USA. If this were to be agreed, the Palestinian story is a small issue in Saudi Arabia. It's not that important anymore. First, I mean, because of the reasoning that I've told you, I mean, no one sees any kind of a potential leadership on the Palestinian side that can consolidate, I mean, both ends of Hamas extremists and Islamic Jihad extremists, radicalists on the Palestinian side, in Palestinian territory, right? I mean, in the either in the Judean Samaria area or in Gaza Strip that will eventually endorse and accept the existence of the State of Israel and therefore negotiating a future Palestinian state. They don't have that. Nobody has it right now. So what will happen is what we did, I believe, with UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and the Sudanese. I mean, we've just wrote, I mean, and you can go back to the Abraham Accords versions of agreements, and we said, okay, we're writing ourselves that there is a need, something like that, in generally speaking, I mean, to solve the Palestinian issue. But was it declared that it's going to be under this and this and this conditions, like 67 plus swap, Jerusalem, blah, blah? I don't think so. And I'm not expecting that to be endorsed in the future agreement in between us and the Saudis. So there are two stages that we have to go through before that. One, of course, is end of the war, the release of the hostages, and then end of the war. And number two is negotiations and agreements in between the USA and the Saudis themselves, and then we will follow.
I want to ask this because I imagine you've heard various theories about how much the Mossad is involved in around the world, Yossi, especially here in the U.S. These days it feels like anything that happens, whether it was the killing of Charlie Kirk, whether it's Jeffrey
And I know,
Epstein, within seconds online. It's the Israeli Mossad. The Israeli Mossad. I wonder, as the former head of the Mossad, who spent your career there, do you take it as a compliment that everyone around the world thinks the Mossad is involved in everything? Do you view it as anti-Semitism? What do you make of the
yeah, just
allegations?
him. Yeah, I know. I mean, first, I mean, we're not involved in any of these, right? I mean,
All right,
Mossad
so hold
was.
on. You're declaring you were not. There was no connection to Jeffrey
We
Epstein.
are not involved in either cases that you've mentioned, and I do feel so sorry for the Charlie Kirk's family. I feel sorry for the USA that you're facing another political assassination. This is a terrible thing for the American administration. I mean, to have this is a terrible thing for the East, for the Americans to have whatsoever. I mean, this is nothing that you want to have in your, yeah, in your country. And I know that you will counter that dramatically, and you will do whatever it needs to do. I mean, to make sure that more things like that will never happen again. And I send my sincere condolences to the family, and I've heard carefully. I mean, his widow's statement, and that his messages will be echoed even better or even stronger right now. But we are not involved in that, of course not. And we're not involved in the other case that had been mentioned, like a Mossad interference or something, or connecting to any of the American cases. We don't do that. I mean, this is not part of our job. This is not part of our workflow. This is not part of the things that we do. It is in between the mysterious work of the Mossad, which is a kind of a complement to anti-Semitism. I mean, for sure that. I mean, I think that there is a thin line in between, yeah, that's weird. Probably it is Mossad's work, or again, the Jewish state is creating these kind of crimes. I don't like it, and we have to counter that dramatically. So, bottom line is, we're not involved.
Thank you for clearing that up. It's so interesting because, you also talk in the aftermath of October 7th. I don't know that anybody knows that when you look at the intelligence failure, and would you call it an intelligence failure on October 7th?
Absolutely huge intelligence failure.
That
Huge.
Gaza was not part of the Mossad's jurisdiction.
Absolutely not, unfortunately, even though I offered, to be part of it. I mean, it's in my book, and I hope that everybody will read it and will understand that Israelis too, that there is a need of a conceptual change. And before wrapping, this podcast, I think, Moshe, this is something that has to be practically endorsed by the State of Israel after this, how do I say, national investigating committee that has to clarify what went wrong, and many things went wrong. And I think that these that have taken responsibility do know that they went wrong. The only thing is, how do we make sure that it will never happen again? And part of it is probably um, participating differently, or the bodies that are dealing with this kind of territories in within the bodies themselves, i.e., I offered the Mossad to enter Gaza Strip because Gaza Strip behaves more like Lebanon and Iran, and less like Judea and Samaria, in which Shabak is not active. And I think that we've lost bit by bit after the disengagement the power of intelligence, and that was the result of it. And I saw it 9 years ago. In 2016, when I was nominated to be the head of the Mossad, I already wanted that. I offered my help in Gaza exactly because of what I just told you. And I was unfortunately rejected by military intelligence, by the chief of staff, by the head of the Shabak, and the prime minister didn't take the right decision. To put us all together in this effort, because they told him we don't need the Mossad in.
Right. There's a separate internal Israeli security service. And I'm curious, as we end here, Yossi, what is the main lesson that you want to tell the world about what Israelis learned on October 7th and how that's changed, how Israelis think about their security, how Israelis think about their defense, how Israelis think about the potential solution in the region in regards to the Palestinians moving forward, especially as you talk about the issue of Hezbollah, the issue of explaining. How do you explain to the world what happened to Israel on October 7th and what it means moving forward?
I think that what we can tell ourselves, we can tell the world. We failed dramatically on guarding the two lines of defense that any nation must have. The intelligence line of defense, i.e., or I mean that you have to really know what the enemy is planning for you. And if they're planning the bad stuff, you have to go there and disrupt it. Or you have to make sure that you do understand their planning, so to make sure that you will be ready to act when your country or your citizens are under a risk. And this first line of defense collapsed, number one, and we have to revive it. We have to make it so much better now. Second line of defense, that's shocking that the doors of the state of Israel were widely open, knowing that there is an enemy 100 meters away from our borders, declaring the annihilation of the state of Israel. And he said, we're coming to get you. One day we will destroy the state of Israel. And that's in their agenda. Nevertheless, it was a beautiful holiday, wonderful sunny day. And partially, everybody was like falling asleep. I don't know what was wrong, but the doors of the country, the borders, in simple words, were widely open and not very well kept or guarded. And you know what? Modesty is part of the job. Modesty is part of the change so much needed on our side. You have to know that you don't know everything, and you don't know what you don't know. And if you do understand that in intelligence, in the intelligence world, there are so many missing parts on the enemy plans because the enemy is trying to hide it from us. Our job is to, to try to reveal what he's doing. But knowing that we don't know anything or everything about him, immediately takes the action on the physical borderlines and saying, okay, I may see it, I may not. I'll make sure that the door is closed, like in your house, Moshe. If you don't know that there is a thief, running around the neighborhood, what do you say? Maybe someone will tell me, so I'll keep the door open because I'm sure that they will see it. No, you close the door, you have a big dog, I think. You have an alarm system, you're locking everything, you make sure that everything is locked, you make sure that your kids and the house is absolutely safe, and then you go to sleep quietly. Or maybe you have a guard outside. That
You
was
think it
not
was
the case in Israel.
arrogance?
Yeah, absolutely that. Unfortunately, we don't need the Mossad in. We're fine. We have enough intelligence. We're happy. We can go on vacations. No, no. This is not, cannot be the case. This cannot be the behavior, the defense behavior from now on.
Yossi Cohen, thank you very much. Good luck with the book.
Thank you,
It's
of
called
course.
Sword of Freedom. And
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova to you as well.
Toda rabah. Thank you very much. Thank you.